There's an important distinction between looking successful on the outside and feeling successful on the inside. These two are not mutually exclusive, and I know this because I lived it. So when I was 14 years old, I actually created something that I was really passionate about. I loved video games. I actually played Halo 2 and 3 professionally. I built a company around it where we were teaching other kids how to play Halo. I got my team sponsored. Essentially, I was doing what I loved and everything was flowing. I was putting the extra time in and I was starting to see the rewards from that. It was really lighting me up. But as you can imagine, I was playing video games a lot. And my mum and dad didn't approve of that. They didn't see at that time that esports was going to turn into a massive multi-million-dollar industry. I could see that at the time because I was so into it, but they couldn't. And I started listening to the voices outside of me. I started listening to mum and dad. And I decided to let go of gaming and take a different track in my life. Fast forward 10 years, I built a successful business in the fitness industry about something that I didn't really care about. I had built body for approval because that's what my culture in Northeast England approved of. That's what my mum and dad approved of. And instead I found myself in this life that didn't quite fit. I found myself in a body that didn't quite fit. I actually remember this one moment. I woke up to the nightclub, I shake the bouncer's hand as you do. I walk inside, we've got a table, there's all of these people. I was being celebrated for something that didn't feel intrinsically valuable to me. I become super aware in that moment, whilst everyone's drinking champagne and having a good time. I become super aware. For some reason, something just clicked. And I understood in that moment that this life that I created wasn't for me. I was like, this life isn't truly mine. And even though it looked successful from the outside, inside, I didn't feel successful. I'd recognized that I had built something that was to essentially please other people. And I was putting enormous effort into it, but ultimately it wasn't creating fulfillment. I built a life from my head, and the head is the wrong leader. The head is an analysis tool. And by that, I mean, the head is incredible for having us be able to analyze data and information. But when we start living from the head, as I started living from my head, it had me looping in circles. It had me creating a life of shoulds versus a life of deeper understanding and listening. It had me create a life from the outside in. So why do so many of us live from our heads? Why do so many of us create a life from our heads? Why do so many of us create lives that other people think we should live? How do we find ourselves here? Well, as human beings, we have biological drives for safety and for connection. Now, when safety threatens connection, safety wins. So most of us will have at some point maybe started living, like I shared before with my story, we start living a life from our hearts, or maybe you start expressing to loved ones or potential partners as you're a kid or a teenager, and you start putting your heart on the line, and then maybe it gets squashed once, and then ow, that hurts. Maybe that happens multiple times. Maybe it happens tens, hundreds of times, and then eventually we stop. We learn that, okay, when I express myself from my heart, when I really put my passion and love into something, it gets squashed. And that can hurt, especially to a child or a teenager. And then we start living from our heads. We start protecting this. We stop having the intelligence or the courage to bring it forward. And we start living from the head. The head is definitely a safer place to live from. It's why I did it. It's why most of us do it. But it's a much less fulfilling place to live from. So who should be in charge? Well, we have head intellectual intelligence here. So maybe it's the gut. The gut is like the first defense, first responders. That is the kind of instant response you have. Now, people can confuse that with the heart, and there's an important difference between the two. Your gut is going to give you data based on historical evidence, whereas your heart has a different resonance to it. It's normally a little slower. It normally has a different tone to it. Now, it took me some time to actually be able to create a relationship with these different parts of my being. It was like, if you ever learned an instrument, harmonica or piano for the first time, and you're playing the instrument, and at first it kind of sounds out of tune and you don't know where all of the keys are, but eventually you start to learn that there are different parts of the instrument. And we are a human instrument. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of, biology that has evolved to create these incredibly intelligent systems. We have the gut, and this gut intelligence. There are tens of thousands of neurons in our gut that give data. We've heard about it now. We talk about the gut-brain axis. We have these incredible thing called afferent and efferent fibers, which move up and down through the body. And there's actually way more data coming up from the body upwards than there is from the brain downwards. So we have our gut intelligence right here, and we talk about that, right? We even say, I've got butterflies, or I just walked into a room and I knew. Like that's the gut intelligence. It has this kind of very fast, instinctual knowing. And if we move a little higher, we have the heart intelligence. Again, tens of thousands of neurons in the heart. There's an intelligence to the heart. This is where we feel ourselves. This is where we feel experience. This is where we feel our connection to one another. The heart is an organ that pumps blood, but it's way more than that. It is the relational tool that connects us to all things, including ourselves. And when that relational tool is shut down, it feels like we're shut down. But when that relation tool is online and open and aligned, then your life feels vibrant. The ancient Eastern philosophies talk about chi. Now, the chi center is actually right here in our heart. Now, chi is another word for life force. So our life force energy comes from the heart. If we look at the chakra system, it is actually the first chakra that aligns all of the others. If we look at the data from Heart Math Institute, we can see that each of our hearts has its own magnetic field that reaches out of our bodies by up to 10 feet. And that's just as far as we can recognize in this moment. And it is unique. So my heart has a unique imprint and your heart has a unique imprint. So there is an intelligence here that we kind of instinctually know. And so the heart is the compass. It is the way. It is the part of us that aligns everything, our friendships, our relationships, the energetics of our body, our careers, our mission, our values, the things that we care about. The heart is the center. It is the captain and it is the compass. And when we live from here, when we align our lives from here, we start to sail towards the islands that are actually for us, as opposed to getting lost in the head and thinking that we should go here or we should go here, and then kind of just sailing around in loops. So what does a heart-led life look like? Well, if you remember that story I was sharing at the beginning where I kind of got myself off track? Well, I built this business, and then I recognized that after I had the night in the nightclub, I recognized that, and I started actually living my life from a space of alignment. I started following the things again that I was passionate about. There were some trials and tribulations along the way, and I remember being in Los Angeles at the time. As I was sharing about my business earlier on in the video, I got a phone call from the CEO who I'd hired to, step in for me as I was venturing into all of the things that I was actually passionate about. And the company was in a bad way. I had to fly back from Los Angeles. I had to walk up the same stair set that at the end I was like, oh my God, I have to continue going to work up this same stair set again. And there I was back at that stair set. There I was back at the same desk. And I was faced with a big decision. I had spent about a year working on the things that I was passionate about and moving in that direction. And then here I am back at my desk, and my company was up for sale for 3.2 million. There's been this big month of issues and challenges which were affecting the books and the records. So I would have had to stay for another 2 or 3 years to kind of get things back on track. So I was sat with that decision, like my head was like, you should absolutely stay. You've been working on this for 5 or 6 years to get it to this place. You should absolutely stay and get your exit here. And my gut was like, stay. But my heart said go. And I had to sit with this for a week or two. And ultimately I decided to continue following the things that I was passionate about, to have the courage to know that as an entrepreneur, as a creator, that I could continue to create things. And knowing what happened in the past, that soon as I started aligning with the things that I was passionate about, I started to attract more of that in my life. I was meeting amazing people as I was out on this year-long adventure. I'd built a new network of people. There was momentum moving in that direction. And it was aligning like it was when I was 14 years old, where I was like in alignment and things were just like flowing, as opposed to this kind of like hard struggle of my mind of the things that I think I should do, I was opening up to the energy, to the life force, to the chi of what was aligned. That was hands down the best decision that I've ever made. You know, a heart-led life looks like aligned friendships, aligned relationships, a job, a career that you get up for every day and you're passionate about. You want to stay up late thinking about it. It links to the books you're reading, to the podcasts you're interested in. Like, it feels like passionate. There's an aliveness to it. And that aliveness has a biological response. There's been studies done now on linking fulfillment and life of purpose to a reduction in all-cause mortality. So there's a cellular impact of us living in alignment, of us living from our hearts, of us doing what is meaningful to us. And that's what this is. And I think that's what every human being that I've ever met wants. We want happiness, we want fulfillment. And these are qualities of the heart. The head will create a life that looks successful on the surface, but the heart will create a life that feels successful. The heart is from the inside out. It's not that we can't have accolades and success and achievements, but we're doing it in the right order. We're doing it from here, from what aligns, what's true, what's beautiful to us. And then we follow, as opposed to the head, which is from the outside, and it's what mom or dad thinks you should do. It's what society thinks you should do. And instead reversing that and living from here. So how do you do this? Well, it's like anything. It is like going to the gym, you build a muscle. And this inner work, this journey from head to heart, is also like building a muscle. There are pathways that we can create so that we can start living from here, so that our center of operation can move from here to here. I created a free meditation called The Heroic Heart. It's free on my app, the ToolBox. There are some links to this below. This is a really great place to start because, like training your body or your fitness or your muscles, this is emotional fitness. And to make the journey from the center of your operations, from your head to your heart, takes work. It takes inner work. And this meditation is specifically designed to support you building a relationship with all of the different aspects of your heart. And this practice itself will guide you through all of the different dimensions, and you'll actually have a felt experience of it. And from there, you can begin continuing to align your life, your values, your friendships, your mission from here. And as we all begin to do that, we begin to change our lives. And as we begin to change our lives, we begin to change the lives of our families, our communities. And I believe that the world that it is that many of us are actually envisioning requires us to make that leap from here to here. And it doesn't begin with some politician or someone outside of us doing it. It begins with us taking up the mantle, choosing to make that journey, and lovingly, courageously confronting anything that is necessary as we begin to bring our hearts, the intelligence of our hearts, online.